So today we're going to do a little bit on marketing. If you've already studied marketing, if you're from a business background, this may be information you already know, so I apologise for that. If you're not, then hopefully it should be a useful tool to look at. The two sections we're going to particularly be interested in today are commonly known as the marketing mix and how we look at the market as a whole. So this is really deciding who we want to target, and this bit is all about how we plan to target them. So within the marketing mix, and take the marketing mix as ingredients. So we're going to use a set amount of different ingredients in order to create the right message to tell people about what we're going to do. Tell people about our product, tell people about our idea. And the right mix will ensure we get a nice tasting cake, completing the analogy. So in terms of the marketing mix, there are officially 7 Ps to it. That's if you're doing a service. If you're delivering a product, there are 5 Ps, which are these. So product, the actual product that you're going to generate, the quality about that product, the functions, the features, any added benefits that it will offer, any quirky bits, any guarantees or after-sales service. So that's all associated with the product. We have what's known as the core product and the augmented product. The core product is, if we use a car as an example, the core product of a car is a box on wheels. It should get you from A to B. The augmented product is all those other little bits that you buy a car for. So whether it be a big boot, in my case, or whether it be a big engine or a flashy stereo or the right colour or whatever it might be, that is the augmented product. That's the bit you add on to what you're supposed to be delivering. So if you're making a vase is a vase. That is the core product. But what is different about that vase? What can you offer in return? The price, this is obviously the price that you recommend to the consumers, to the customers. Also consider things like trade prices. So if you're selling to individual users, so if you're selling B2C, business to customer, think about the price you're going to offer to them. But if you also want to sell B2B, business to business, you'll have to consider what your trade price will be. Now, for those of you that plan to sell retail, for instance, John Lewis, on average, look at a 225% markup for their products. So if you want to sell an item for £20, they will buy it from you for around £8, or whatever that maths is. So you're going to lose a lot of your profit margin. So consider, if you're going into B2B sales, what they will expect. The place, and this to me is one of the biggest ones, most important ones. Where and when will the customer buy the product or consume the service? So in terms of a product, if you're selling a product, how do you plan to get it in front of them? How can they feel it? How can they touch it? How will they buy it? Now this, in all my years as an advisor, business advisor, this is where most of the retail ideas have fallen down, because they're either retailing in the wrong geographic place or they're retailing online when the product isn't set or welcome online. And for those of you, and I'm pretty much sure that there's a lot of you in the design crafts field that are potentially looking at making items for sale, if you're doing it on the web, how are you going to get over the quality of your work? How are you going to get over the intricacy of your work? How are you going to get over the absolute detail, the hours and hours and hours of work that you've put in to create just one unit? How do you get that over on the web? It's a lot easier to get over physically when people can touch, get close to the item, feel it, see it in 3D. So that is one of the big things for any of you who are planning to sell your design crafts, items, whatever it might be. Consider where and when you are going to sell it. And promotion is probably the bit you know about marketing. Marketing is not just about advertising, but it is the most commonly known part of marketing. You will all see flyers. Blimey, people are walking here today. I got accosted by 5 or 6 people wanting to give me flyers. So we often see that as just advertising, but it's not. There are a lot more aspects to promotion than just the communication side. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that. What I want to get over today is whatever you're doing, if you're starting a business, whatever that business be, the key to it and the key to any marketing is customers are the central point of everything you do, or they should be. The product, we're not just selling the phone, we're selling the benefits of that phone. What we want to do is create benefit-orientated marketing. We're not talking to someone about the pen that we write with, we're talking about the benefits that will give them when they buy that particular product. We're talking about the price to the customer, how the customer will accept that price. Not the price we want the customer to pay, the price we hope they will accept paying. Place, all about convenience. Will it sell over the web? Is it the sort of thing that customers will want to buy over the web? Being a recent father, well, I'm still a father, but you know what I mean. Being a father that's had pushchairs and things involved, one of the biggest problems I see is shops that don't have access for a pushchair. So it's a minor thing, but the biggest problem I have is convenience. And believe it or not, there's a boot store in the High Cross that for some reason the baby goods are on the first floor. Why on earth would you put baby goods on the first floor? You need to get a pram in a lift and all sorts. And anyway, I'll go off, but it's not convenient. Even little minor points like that are not convenient. So think about how you lay things out. And then promotion is how we're going to communicate to the customer. What will they want to hear? Where will they expect to hear it? The other 3 points, if you're selling a service, is people. If you are a service, if you are delivering a service, so I am delivering a service to you today, you are your own brand. However you deliver it, you are representing the company, whether that be me being part of a larger company or whether that be you being your own company. So be aware of how you come across or how your employees come across. The process, how do you deliver that service? And the physical environment that service is delivered in. So take, for example, restaurants there. Restaurants is a service. So they are one part of the reason you go to a particular restaurant is the decor, the interior design of that building. So consider physical environment. We're going to think about who our target customers might be. And that is just a tiny little bit of a joke, but not a very good one. So I'll skip over it. So if you think of everyone in the world that you can possibly market to, we need to try and get that down. Anyone that tells me they're going to market their products to everyone is either lying or is too ambitious. It's not possible to market your products to everyone. Even Coca-Cola do not market their products to everyone. And they are one of the world's leading brands. Likewise, McDonald's. There are places that Coca-Cola and McDonald's do not exist in this world. So there is no point in marketing to those people. So even they segment. And all we're doing by segmenting is deciding who our ideal person might be that will buy our products. And we do it in 3 main ways. For those that are a bit more pictorial, there's an easier way of doing it, which is if you get an Action Man or a Barbie doll, other products are available, in your mind, strip them naked and then dress them how you would expect them to look, for how your target customer will expect to look. And you've done pretty much that. Because you'll have in your mind the demographics, the age, the gender. You'll have in your mind lifestyle by the way they typically dress, and perhaps their personality by the way they dress. You won't necessarily have the top section. But that's all you've done. So if you want to forget all this complicated stuff, by all means, just have in your mind a picture of your ideal customer. Now, marketing is all about stereotypes, some of which are completely wrong, and I don't condone them. But we have to make assumptions in marketing about who our target market is. If you imagine your target market as a dartboard, to score the most points, we have to hit the treble 20 with our dart. If we miss the treble 20 and we still get a dart in the board, we will still achieve some points. So if we miss our target market with our marketing, hopefully, and in more cases than not, you will still receive some hits. It just won't be the most efficient way of spending your marketing money or your marketing efforts. So all we're doing now is trying to make sure your marketing efforts are the most efficient. So to break these down a little bit, geographics, perhaps the easiest one to define, where are they? Where are your customers going to be? Where do you want your customers to be? If you're selling over the web, please be aware that you are selling internationally, or you may be asked to sell internationally. Businesses I know have stumbled across that. There's a bag company that I'm working with that hadn't set themselves up to sell internationally, didn't have a lot of prices. Their first few orders, all Middle East. So they had to work out what their shipping costs will be, estimated time of delivery, and all that sort of thing. They weren't set up for it. So please be aware if you're on web, be aware of internationalization. Demographics are simply measurable statistics about people. That's all it is. Age, gender, ethnicity, education background, disposable income level, whatever it might be. Marketers tend to use acronyms in some cases, and you may have heard a couple. Skiers. That's what my parents are doing at the moment, spending kids' inheritance. So typically 60-year-old, perhaps retired, going out on lots of holidays, lots of disposable income, spending kids' inheritance. Dinkies, double income, no kids. So again, 2 incomes in the household, no kids to suck your wallet dry, and mine already are, even though the eldest is just 3. So again, lots of disposable income. So you know you can market high-value products to both skiers and dinkies. And again, we're being stereotypical. Just because you've got 2 incomes in a household doesn't make you rich. We have to make assumptions, though. Psychographics, this is all about people's personalities. This is all about people's lifestyle preferences. Are they country bumpkins that walk their whippet in their green wellies and their flat cap every Sunday? Or are they the type of people that live in ultra-modern flats in the centre of Leicester, if there are any? But you know where I'm getting to. Are they the city boys that spend lots of money on flash pinstripe suits and champagne, or are they the types of wallflower that will just quite happily sit and knit of an evening? Not that there's anything wrong with that either. We have an idea about who our people might be. We also have an idea about what sort of things might motivate them, they might empathise with. So there are a lot of people that are part of the environment, support the environment. So the Green Brigade, that's part of a lifestyle preference. They would want to see certain things of your products. So if you're planning to market to them, you will need to show particular points. And then the other bits, the behavioural bits, which I find the most fascinating. So the benefits sort, people will buy products dependent on the benefits that they are looking for. Purchase occasions, people will market products and people buy products aimed at specific purchase occasions. You can't move now in any sort of shop, FMCG, fast-moving commercial goods retailer, without seeing an advert for Easter, for chocolate eggs or whatever it might be now. You will also not be able to, in the next week or so probably, not watch telly without seeing adverts for perfume. Why? Come on, chaps, don't let me down. What's happening in a couple of weeks? Valentine's Day, for crying out loud. Come on, boys. Date should be in your diary. And it's things like that that marketers and companies pick up on. So they look at purchase occasions, and you will find in the same goes with weeks running up to Christmas, that perfume ads are on constantly because they see perfume as being given as a gift. The purchase occasion is a gift. So Valentine's Day and Christmas being the same. So with your products, consider, are there any particular purchase occasions attached to it? Or can we hijack particular purchase occasions? So some products fit better than others to looking at purchase occasions. Purchase behaviour is looking at the length of time it makes a decision. Someone makes a decision about your product. So I challenge anyone in this room now that, to tell me whether you've gone into a shop and bought a packet of chewing gum. Just a packet of chewing gum. You've gone in deliberately into that store to buy a packet of chewing gum. I'm getting nods, okay. That's not normally the case. Chewing gum is often known as an impulse buy. Impulse buys mean that they're there by the tills and you just think, I've bought a bottle of Coke, I'm going to need some chewing gum to go with it. Or I've bought a sandwich, I'm going to need some chewing gum for afterwards. It's not deemed as an item that you would buy usually on its own. So the decision-making process, the purchase behaviour behind it, is very, very quick. You will just buy you are probably brand dependent, or you're probably price dependent when it comes to things like chewing gum. Because you don't think about it a lot. You don't look on the packet of chewing gum and go, well, okay, that's going to make my teeth whiter. It's going to be healthy for my gums. It's going to taste like raspberry. It just doesn't happen, does it? You don't look at one and compare it with the other. You just pick up the brand that you are aware of, or the one that's the lowest price or on offer. And that's what impulse buys are all about. Supermarkets are fantastic about looking at this. And they put the items that they want you to buy at the end of an aisle or at eye line. And they are very clever with that. Next time you go into the supermarket, look through the aisles. Guarantee that the higher priced ones, the premium products, are at your eye line. And the lower value ones are right by your feet. Guarantee it. Particularly when it comes to alcohol. Just test it. Prove me right. Or wrong, indeed. And that's all about how people buy things. They're relying on purchase behaviour. So typically, where we go with purchase behaviour is the lower the value of the product, the least amount of time you spend deciding on whether to buy it. The lower the price, the lower the time. The higher the price, the higher the time. And for higher value items, you generally have to think about it a lot more. The last time you bought a car, perhaps, you thought about, well, is it right for me? Does it do the right miles per gallon? Is it the right price? Is it reliable? How old it is? Whatever it might be, you thought about the process a lot more. Chances are you didn't just see one and go, oh, that's red, I'm going to buy that one. Doesn't happen. So the higher value your items are, and particularly if they are more expensive than your competitors' products or other products that are similar to yours, the more you are going to have to explain your value. I revert back to Marks and Spencer's, and I'm a particular fan of their advertising. Their food, I'm sure you will all agree, is slightly more expensive than your Asda, your Sainsbury's, whatever it might be. Yeah? So a chocolate cake is a chocolate cake. But Marks and Spencer's don't do it like that. They realise that they're more expensive, and they add value. They add value by what's known as selling the sausage and the sizzle. So they tell you how nice that chocolate cake is. And by the end of the advert, their descriptions have left your mouth watering, and you want to go out and buy one. That's adding value. That is because they realise their products are more expensive. And when was the last time you just bought a packet of salt and vinegar crisps? You don't these days. If you're buying higher value crisps, kettle chips or whatever, it's not just salt and vinegar. It's Anglesey sea salt and French balsamic vinegar. Why? Because they think by adding those couple of little bits, they're adding value. Which is true, they do. So if you're making items, give us the authenticity of those items. Give us the reasoning behind the fact that they're a little bit more expensive. So if you're making leather items, don't just say they're leather. If the leather's from Italy, for some reason Italian leather appears to be better, explain that it's Italian leather. Explain that it's hand-stitched. Whatever it might be, in making those explanations, you are adding value. And you are justifying the purchase behaviour. So think about that. Product usage, how many uses is it going to get? Is it a throwaway item like a newspaper, in which you would hope your customers come back for more and more and more, or is it one use for 5 years? Either way, you've got to change your marketing approach depending on what they are. And the last one fascinates me. And being stereotypical for the chaps here, you will be more aware of it than perhaps the ladies. And I apologise for any apparent sexism there. Footballers and blokes that want to be footballers, they will go out and buy the same pair of boots Wayne Rooney wears because they believe that when wearing those boots, they're going to play like Wayne Rooney. Hopefully not look like him, but certainly play like him. And in the sports world in particular, they spend a lot of money trying to create those perceptions and beliefs. They do it in the fashion world as well, which is why they put very expensively high-paid models in adverts, because people think that by putting on that dress or by putting on those pair of trousers, they're going to look like those very expensively paid models. It's the perception and belief attached to those products. So I guarantee at some point you have all been victims of it. I am as much as everyone else. But it's interesting the way that they do it. So think about the perception and beliefs that people will want to expect from your product. Is it an aspirational product? Are you trying to create an aspirational brand? Aspirational brands are things that people will always strive to buy. Apple is a very good example of an aspirational brand. Because whatever they do, people will always seek it out. Or they've created that very well. So what can you do in order to create an aspirational brand? So a little bit of a test, a little bit of audience participation. It's a bit warm in here and I can see people nodding off. So something for you to do, very briefly. We've got 3 breakfast cereals. They're all breakfast cereals. They will all do the same thing, which is give you sustenance. But who do we think all 3 are marketed to? If I start on your left, Honey Smacks. I'm not sure it's appropriately named, but who do we think they're marketed to? Anyone going to be brave enough? Go on, shout out. Children? Yeah? Anyone else? Different opinion? No? Children. Okay, good. But just keep that in your minds. You've all fallen down the, well, those of you who said that have fallen down the trap I wanted you to. Special K. Come on. Ladies. Going down to the behavioural aspects, the personality, the lifestyle. On a diet. Yeah, mums, nothing wrong with that, but perhaps those that are seeking to lose weight, those that are perhaps going on to a purchase occasion, perhaps running up to a holiday because they want to lose weight for a holiday. And you'll see quite a lot of adverts with that around the summer. And then the final one, organic porridge oats. Can you give me a typical age of people that would buy that? Range? Sorry? Old? Good, no problem. Personality and beliefs? They look after themselves perhaps, bit healthier lifestyle. They're bothered about the environment because they're eating organic. We're making sweeping stereotypes, I admit. But they're 3 different breakfast cereals, that's all they are. And they all do the same job. But marketers will aim them at certain different people. Touching briefly on to B2B, so business to business sales. So if you are selling your products or services to another business, we segment in a slightly different way. We still do it on geographic location, so geographics. But we look at things like organisational size. How big are the businesses that we want to sell into? If we're selling our little vases, not being flippant, but if we're selling vases, do we want to sell them to John Lewis, a big international brand, or do we want to sell them into small independent galleries stroke retail sites in small country villages? So what is the organisational type and size? And we can take size, meaning number of branches, number of stores, number of staff, turnover, so the amount of money they're bringing in, the profit they make, whatever it might be. You can define size however you want. Then we look at industries, and what we mean by industry is sector. So what type of industry are we looking to sell to? So okay, using our example of vases, we're obviously looking at retail. But using the example of the company I work for, we specialise, we're a management consultancy, but we specialise in the public sector. So we specialise delivering programmes and support to councils, to universities, whatever that might be. So our particular industry sector for B2B sales is the public sector. And then we look at these other more complicated points. The decision-making unit structure. So who can make the decisions? If we, as a company, are selling into De Montfort's a large organisation. There's, what, 2,000 staff, more than 2,000 staff. Who do I, as a marketer, sell my services to? How are the decisions made? What is the decision-making process? Is it through tender? I had to tender to get this work. So I have to write a proposal, not knowing what my competitors are going to do in terms of price and in terms of value. So I have to write a blank proposal, a blind proposal, in order to get the work. You might find also, if you're selling B2B, especially into large organisations, that there are authorisation levels. So particular members of staff can authorise £1,000, and then £10,000, and then £50,000. So if you're selling an item at £1,001, do you think it's better just dropping the price to £999 in order to get a quicker decision by the person you're dealing with? Yes, probably. So think about who can make the decision and at what level they can make the decision. Would it get you a speedier result? Would it get you money in the bank quicker if you were to drop your price by a little bit just to go in under the what's known as the procurement bands? For some of you, you may not even be dealing with the same company you plan to sell to. Now, a lot of retail outlets use professional buyers. A lot of retail outlets, their decision-making process is having meet the buyer days. So John Lewis particularly, they open up their doors, their buyers will sit in front of you and you pitch a little bit like Dragon's Den. So you've got to consider who actually you're planning to target. Is it the actual organisation, or do they have a purchasing organisation that they pay for? And then the last one is a little bit more interesting. If you're developing something, particularly within IT or particularly on the services side of things, that is very, very different, that can change the game for someone. It's real innovative technology. If you're developing that, some people, some organisations will accept it quicker than others. Public sector are traditionally, so hospitals, universities, councils, whatever, are traditionally not very good at accepting innovative ideas. They don't like to break from the norm. However, if you're trying to sell into very, very highly competitive industries, they are the ones that are likely to accept innovative technology or innovative ideas, simply because they want to pay to have that edge over everyone else. They need it. So, with the thought that we're going to market Honey Smacks, and I hate that product name, Honey Smacks to children, I want you to keep that in your mind while we think about, very briefly, buyer roles. When you buy something, or when you try and sell something, there are 3 different roles within that. The buyer, the person that physically purchases the product. The user, you might be buying it for your flatmate. And the funder. The funder might be your parents because you haven't got any money left after whatever finance loans that you get to be a student now. So there are 3 different people here. Who do you market to? Let's bring back the example of Honey Smacks. The children would be the user, so we all write in one aspect. Who would physically buy it? And I'm being stereotypical now. Please apologise. I apologise now. So in my household, the user would be my children, the buyer would be my wife, and the funder would be me. Who, because my wife doesn't work, who do you market to? If you're marketing Honey Smacks, who do you market them to? Me, the one that can afford to buy them, my wife, the one that physically goes to the store to get them, or my children, the ones that are going to eat them? Any thoughts? Okay, why?
Because when they see it, they want it. And when they want it, they convince us to let them have it.
Okay, possibly.
Buyer, because if mum's going out to get them, they want to get something that's good for their kids, but also that they'll enjoy.
Okay. It's not wrong. Neither answers are wrong. There is no wrong answer. There is no right answer. And in fact, Asda, George Clothing, their clothing line, were particularly picked up on this, and they do it around the start of school years. Asda will have 2 different adverts, TV adverts, for their George Clothing. One that focuses on the child and how cool their clothes look. They use language like cool and whatever else they use, whatever else you kids use now to be trendy. They'll use that sort of language. And then after 8 o'clock, when children have gone to bed, they switch to another advert. And that other advert reflects upon how scuff resistant the trousers are, how stain resistant they are, how they're going to be tough and long lasting and hard wearing. Why? Because they've accepted that there are 3 different buyer roles. So you weren't wrong, neither of you. But you just choose to use different language and different types of marketing tricks to appeal to either one. So to use an obvious example, a relevant example, perfume. Who would you market perfume to? Women, because they're the user. With Valentine's Day in mind? Men. Being stereotypical, of course, it might be women, giving gifts to women. And then the payer. So we've got to consider who we're targeting our marketing to, if there is a specific purchase occasion. So just bear that in mind. And with that in mind, we have 3 different male fragrances. We can do the same for female, it doesn't matter, but there's a more obvious example in the male. So we have Old Spice, and for those of you who are old enough to remember, that had a certain je ne sais quoi about it. You have Prada, Eau de Toilette, and you have Diesel. What roles, who would you sell to on those 3? Let's start with Old Spice. There's a good story about that one. Who would you sell, who would you market Old Spice to?
Men in their 40s and 50s, at least 50s.
Okay, right. I'm saying, I'm going to contest that. And I'm going to contest it for one reason. A, I am a man, well, 2 reasons. A, I'm a man, reaching my 40s, not quite just there. And I would never, ever, ever buy that myself, because I know what it smells like. However, I remember as a child buying it for my dad and my granddad as a gift. So actually, Old Spice cottoned onto this, and they made their marketing a little bit more youthful, because they realised that no one on God's green earth were going to buy it. The user was not going to buy their aftershave. Their only sales they were getting were via purchase occasions, gifts. So they cottoned onto it, and they changed their marketing a little bit. Prada, which buyer role would potentially, so the user, the funder, or the payer for Prada aftershave? Go on, be brave.
Buyer.
Okay. And you're saying the buyer being the user at the same time?
Not necessarily. If say, a woman was buying it for a man,
Yep.
they might think, oh, well, it's a designer make, so
Okay, good.
more likely to buy something that's a well-known designer make, because it is.
It's higher value. It's got a higher its brand is seen as higher quality. Yeah. So yes, I would agree. I would say that it wouldn't necessarily be the user that buys that. A man wouldn't necessarily go out to buy it themselves, being stereotypical and making assumptions. And then the latter, the user, yes. So typically I would say that is using this room as an example, the chaps here of a certain age would go out and buy that themselves because it's a youthful brand. It's not necessarily a purchase occasion. The woman would typically buy their partner a higher quality brand. To move on very, very quickly, I realised I'm running out of time. So product is branding. You will all know brands. In fact, you see around 20,000 different brand images or brand messages a day. There are 9 brands here, all of which are in the top 100 brands of the world. Tell me what everyone does. LG Electronics, obvious, yeah? You all know what LG does? Starbucks, obvious. Motorola, phones. GE Electrics, what do they do? We'll go back to that one. AT&T, it's American something and telecoms. HSBC, obvious. Innocent Drinks, obvious. Adobe, obvious. And Pizza Hut, obvious. The key to that is I wanted you to think about actually the brand. Okay, you've got the brand names and that's great. But that's just one level of marketing. Just because you recognise a logo doesn't mean you know what they're trying to sell you. That one is in the top 10 brands of the world and has been for many, many years, but yet only one of you could give a part answer to what they do. They're one of the largest, if not the largest, electronics manufacturers in the world. And in fact, I would imagine most of these light bulbs are made by GE. if you look at the light bulb you've installed in your house, it's probably in some way made by GE. Fairly obviously, these are the top 10 brands currently in the world this year. GE came in 4th, I think, maybe 5th. I'll assume that you know what all of those do. Is that fair? Which one came first? I was quite surprised. Someone said it. Yes. First time Apple took number 1 for a long, long time. That proves that they're doing a lot of work on their brands at the moment. But yeah, top 10. Most of those are pretty much around, or always around the top 10. And again, I'll assume that you know all that they do. We talked about this right at the start, or I talked about it right at the start. And this is all about aiming your products towards the customer. And we have a core product. We have our car, which is a box on wheels. Then we have our total product, and that looks how we package it. What else do we provide? Can we provide a guarantee? Kia cars are very, very good at advertising the fact that they have the longest warranty in cars. 7 years. Unless you count, I think it's Vauxhall, which offers a lifetime guarantee. And what that means is that until you sell it. So generally, if you buy a new car, you will sell it after perhaps 3 or 4 years. And then the environment, the product's being all about the environment. And then we look at the augmented product, which is things like the guarantee, the brand. What else do we get from the particular product? And this is part of it, packaging. Now, I've cleverly and poorly photoshopped the logos out of these items. You'll see that the Coca-Cola bottle is a little bit, the bottle is a little bit stretched. I've given that one away. I assume you know the other one. Toblerone. For an extra bonus point, who was the Coca-Cola bottle modelled on? Famous 60s actress. Died too young. Thank you. Virgin Cola, an extra bonus point. Who was the Virgin Cola bottle modelled on? Very prominent in the 90s in a TV series wearing bathing costumes. Pamela Anderson. Thank you. You were right. Some of you have seen this, but it's all about the way that we can use packaging to cleverly market our services. And I apologise to the vegetarians, but I do particularly like this one. And that one. And that one. That's adding value. That's being quirky. That's being innovative. That's how to sell spaghetti. So we've given an example, and I've mentioned this in terms of the car. So the core product is a box on wheels. The next aspects of it, the tangible benefits, the benefits that are easy to copy. And what we're trying to do now is look at things that cannot be copied by our competitors. So the tangible benefits are the obvious ones. So every car can have a big boot. You can have a big boot if you drive a Volkswagen or a Mercedes. They've all got big boots. What we need to look at, though, is the intangible benefits, the one that can't necessarily be quantified, the ones that you can't necessarily get your hands on physically. So we think about it in terms of brand. We buy a car based on the cool status of the brand. We buy a car against the perceived reliability of that brand. Volkswagen in particular, very, very good at marketing the perceived reliability. For marketing a service, then we need to consider things like inseparability. You cannot deliver a service without experiencing it. It cannot be touched, tasted, smelt, bought until it is actually physically bought. And what I mean by bought is potentially you are receiving a service today and you have bought into it very kindly by your attendants. Some of you forced, some of you not. So you might find it difficult to evaluate the benefits until you've actually touched, experienced whatever it. And that's difficult for services. So how we get over that is we offer testimonials. We offer people that can good referrals, case studies. People can see how good the service was without first experiencing it. Look at the prominence and now importance of websites like TripAdvisor. Thomas Cook actually market their services on the back of TripAdvisor because they know now how important it is. So the other thing is that in marketing services, you have a simultaneous consumption and production. You cannot store a service. In my working day, if I am not delivering anything, I'm not necessarily earning money for my organisation. But on a working day, if I've got 2 or 3 sessions to deliver, I can't deliver 2 or 3 at the same time. So there is an inseparability between consumption and production. So you've got to plan your time accordingly. Variability. Services are really, really variable depending on who delivers it. And more importantly, depending on the mood you're in when you deliver it. If I'm in a bad mood, chances are you won't receive a better service, as good a service as if I'm in a good mood. It's natural life. So you've got to consider things like variability. If someone else is delivering your service for you, consider how they will change that. And as I've said, services cannot be stored for the future. If a hotel room is empty, it's lost its revenue. If an aeroplane seat is empty, you're never going to get that revenue back. So plan appropriately. Plan around peak demand. Price. To a consumer, price is the value placed on what is exchanged. The important bit there is, without a price, a product is a gift. And it is. If you give something away, there is no price attached to it. The thing to remember, and the only really thing to remember about price, is that there is this complete inseparability about price and quality. The lower the price, the lower the perceived quality. The higher the price, the higher the perceived quality. So if you're trying to sell really, really high quality items, don't sell them at a low price. Even if you think you're new to it and you need to sell them at a low price. People won't see the quality, they won't see the value. You can think about things like pricing tactics. Supermarkets use loss leaders. They draw you in to buy 3 bottles of Coke for £1 or whatever it might be, because they know they're going to make more money on other items when you get there. Boots are very good at promotional pricing, buying 3 for 2. Waterstones used to do the same, but they've now stopped it. Discounts, and the one that I find very fascinating that is less now apparent, is psychological pricing. I used to use it. I used to run a nightclub. I'm going off on a tangent. I can't afford the time. I used to run a nightclub, and all of our tickets used to be £4 or £9. Why? Because when you paid on the door, you paid with a nice blue crisp note. We gave you a ticket, and we gave you £1 back. How cool is that? You'd spend that £1 over the bar, so it didn't matter. But if we charged you £6, you would have to give me a nice crisp blue note and a £1 coin. So you don't get that feeling of getting something back in return. And that is psychological pricing. You don't get it so much now because generally you don't use cash. So you just put your card in and you get the product back in exchange. But it's a clever tactic people use. When you're thinking about promotion, think about, and what I mean by promotion is a marketing campaign. Think about what you actually want to achieve out of it. What are your smart objectives? There are, and I'm skipping a slide very quickly, there are 4 levels of the buying process. Some people are now saying there's more, but we consider things like awareness, interest and desire and action. You cannot act on something unless you first have a desire in it. You cannot have a desire in it unless you're first interested in it, and you cannot be interested in something unless you are first aware of something. So when you are trying to promote your items, what stage of that buying process are you promoting to? Are you planning to just generate awareness, or actually are you planning to get action? Different marketing tools will treat different areas, will work on different areas. Sponsorship on football shirts, for instance, doesn't tell you anything about the product, but it does raise awareness. So it works at the top end, the awareness end, not the action. So think about what you want to achieve. We've talked about defining the audience. So who are you going to market it to? Select the appropriate media. So you're going to use flyers, you're going to use radio adverts, you're going to use posters, you're going to go on an exhibition, whatever it might be. Design the specific message associated to the people you are targeting to. If you're selling to the over 50s, don't use text language, they won't understand it. It's obvious, but people do. Design the message that considers benefit orientation as well. So sell them the benefits, don't sell them the product. Don't just show up and throw up, as a sales consultant once told me. And the most important thing is get feedback. How do you know your marketing is working unless you've asked them? So we have all sorts of different ways, and this is the traditional aspects of promotion. This is what you know of marketing. So internet marketing, direct marketing, publicity, PR that is, personal selling, face-to-face, i.e. exhibitions and trade shows, they all form the particular mix that is best for your products or services. Just be careful how you word things. Free car wash with gas? No, we're not washing our cars with petrol. You get a free car wash when you buy petrol. If you're designing your own materials, I'll leave you to read that, but there are some real good do's and don'ts. I'm sorry for the rush. So to summarise, determine what you want to achieve by your marketing. Marketing is much, much more than just putting an advert out there. Choose your customers appropriately. Not all customers will be good customers. There's nothing wrong with refusing to work with people that are going to pay you late or not pay you at all. Create the whole product. So think about not just the core product, but the total product, and then what makes you different, the intangible benefits around that product or service. Consider other benefits that you can offer the customer. Do some research. Find out how your customers found out about you or any future customers. And they're the channels, they're the media methods to use. And please, please, please use appropriate language and communicate the benefits of your product or service.